All right, good morning, everybody. Today we're going to talk about distributing a negative number. Okay, we've already done the distributive property. Okay, but we haven't done one with a negative number. Okay, so today we're going to talk about distributing a negative number. Okay, and we're going to see what effects it has on the expressions. All right, so I've already filled in some of this just to keep the time down on me writing. A negative sign indicates the opposite of a number. Okay, so we've already talked about opposites towards the beginning of the year when we were talking about integers. Okay, so it says list the opposite of each of the terms below. Well, the opposite of 8 is -8. Opposite of 5 is 5. Opposite of x was -x. Opposite of -3x is 3x. Opposite of 1, -1. Opposite of 9x, or -9x, is 9x. Okay? So, when distributing a negative number, you are multiplying each term within the parentheses by the negative number outside the parentheses. So, just like we did, we're still multiplying it just like we did when we did the distributive property. This results in finding the opposite of each term within the parentheses, okay? So here's a couple different steps, okay, because I wanted to show you all the steps. So when I distribute, okay, this -3, I'm going to do -3 times 2, -3 times 4x. So -3 times 2, okay, and I'm still a plus here, plus -3 times 4x. So what that gives me is -6, okay, -3 times 2 is -6. Whenever you multiply and they have different signs, it's going to be negative. Doesn't matter which one is larger. Plus -3 times 4x, well, -3 times 4 is -12x, okay. Now I told you all earlier, okay, I mentioned it in another video. If you've been here for intervention, I've mentioned it. Okay? This right here, when you plus a negative number, that's the same thing as subtracting that number. Okay? So plus -12x is the same thing as -12x. So when we write it, we want to write it just like this. Okay? -6 minus 12x. Okay? Remember, when I told you we were simplifying these to put parentheses around each one, and that tells you if it's positive or negative, well, around each term. Well, if I put parentheses around this first term, that's -6. Well, that's what I have. I put parentheses around this term, well, that's a -12x. Well, add 12x, -12x. That's where I'm at. Okay? So let's do, we're not going to do all 8 of these, okay? We'll do some of them. We won't do some of them. So we'll start with the first one, though. Number 1. -2, okay, times, and this is in parentheses, g plus 5. All right? So we'll do distributive property. So -2g, well, this is a positive g, okay? So we're just going to bring the negative with it. So -2g, okay. 2 times 5 is 10. They have different signs, so that's going to be a negative, so that's -10, okay. We need to get into the understanding of that -10 is the same thing as adding -10. Okay, so -2 times 5 is -10, but we're subtracting 10, so, okay. Now, we'll get more practice with this as we go along. We'll do number 2. -2 times -g plus 5. So now we have, if I told you, if you remember to put these parentheses around them, so -2 times -g, that's the same thing as saying negative 1g. Okay? So negative 2 times negative 1, well, they're both negative, so if they're the same sign, it changes it to positive. Okay? So now we have 2g. Okay? Negative 2 times 5, well, negative 2 times 5 is negative 10, so we're minus 10. Okay? All right, we'll skip down to number 6. Okay, so number 6, we got negative 3, and we're going to times that by negative 4a, and that's plus 2. Okay, so negative 3, and remember, we're just multiplying our coefficients if they're there, or they're always there. But so negative 3 times negative 4, well, negative times negative is a positive. So 3 times 4 is 12, and we're just going to bring the variable with it. So 12a. Negative 3 times 2, well, negative 3 times 2 gives me a negative 6. So minus 6. Okay? All right, let's look at number 7. And we'll do probably 7 and 8. So distribute my negative 3. So I have negative 3 times 4a minus, or negative 3 okay. Now, put our parentheses around this. Okay. So now I have negative 3 times 4. They're opposite signs, so I have negative 12a. Okay. Negative 3 times negative 2. Well, they're the same sign, so that's going to be positive. So that's a plus 6. Okay. That's a plus 6. All right. We'll do number 8. So my distributive property, put in parentheses around my terms and the sign before them. Negative 3 times negative 4a. They're both negative, so I'm just going to multiply them together. Okay. That'll give me a positive 12, and then I'm going to bring my a down. I have negative 3 times negative 2. Well, negative times a negative is a positive, and 3 plus 2, or 3 times 2 is 6. Okay? Now, these questions down here, and I didn't do 3 and 4, but 3 and 4 are very similar to 7 and 8. Okay? What do you notice about questions 1 through 4 above? All right, so let's just look at the ones that we have done. We went from negative 2 times g plus 5 to negative 2g minus 10. Okay, for this one, we started out with negative 2 times negative g plus 5, and we got 2g minus 10. Okay, same way down here, we got a negative 3 on the outside, 4a minus 2 on the inside, which gave us negative 12a plus 6. Okay, let's look at number 8. Negative 3 on the outside, on the inside, negative 4a minus 2. Well, what I kind of notice in 1 through 4, or the ones that we have done, is that in each set, so each one, the negative value change the signs of the terms, if I can spell, inside the parentheses. So maybe you noticed that, maybe you didn't. Okay? But let's just look. When I multiplied by this -3, that -4, well, what did that change to? It changed to a positive. This +2, well, that constant changed to a negative number, to negative, minus. Okay? So we're changing the signs on the inside. So just by looking at this, this is a positive g minus 5, right? Well, if I already picked up on that, then when I do my distributive property, well, that g is going to be, whatever that is, that's going to be a positive. Sorry, a negative. And this 5, whatever I multiply from the outside, well, that changes it to a positive. So now this is negative, a negative g, 2g, and this constant goes from a negative to a positive. Okay? Goes from a negative to a positive. Okay? So use your calculator, and like I said, you're just multiplying the terms on the outside, from the outside number. So -2, remember, if it's just a variable, there is a 1 in front of it, so that's a -1. So -2 times -1. Well, that gives me 2g. -2 times -5, positive 10, so plus 10. Okay? You'll have maybe about 10 questions that relates to this. Okay? And then tomorrow we'll be having a quiz, okay, over distributing, the distributive property, okay, and it'll include the negatives, and also factoring what we did yesterday. Okay, so today's a short video because we've already talked about distributing. Okay, this time we're just talking about distributing a negative number. Okay, so remember, when you're multiplying, if they have the same sign, and they could be positive times a positive, that gives you a positive. It can be a negative times a negative, that's going to give you a positive. Okay? Different signs. Okay, so positive times a negative, if the number on the outside is a positive, that's going to give you a negative. And either way you write it, a positive times a negative or a negative times a positive, negative. Does not matter what the signs are, or it does not matter the value. So your negative here could be the smaller one, okay? It doesn't matter. As long as one's a positive, one's a negative, your answer, your product will be negative, okay? So if you have any questions, email me or private comment in Google Classroom, and we will discuss it. Do not turn it in until we talk about it, until I respond to you, okay? Because I don't want you just hitting submit and then not getting any feedback from me just yet, okay? That way we can talk through it. Maybe we'll get on a Google Meet or something, and I can show you an example or two more, okay? So, short video, 14 minutes today, 15, when it's all said and done. So, I should get an email from you Thursday. All right, so yesterday I got an email with a number. Today I'm getting another email with a number, and this should be Thursday's email, 50. Okay? Y'all have a good day. Remember to use these, take notes with them, okay? Write it down. That way you can use it on a quiz. All right? Have a good day.